Hey, In2Pickle, it's Tony coming to you today from Port St. Lucie. What I want to do today is go over some tips to help you improve as a pickleball player. What we're going to talk about today are several tips. Some are simple, some are a little more complicated, but every one of these tips will help you improve your pickleball play, your pickleball results, and hence improve you as a pickleball player. So let's get into it. This next tip is helpful for when you're playing a pickleball game, understanding when you're in an offensive situation or in a defensive situation, because it impacts the type of shot you should hit. What we're going to talk about right now is we're going to talk about how to recognize when you're in a defensive situation, and if you're in a defensive situation, the types of shots that you should hit out of that kind of position, the position that you're in. First thing you want to recognize when you're in a defensive situation is, for example, if let's say your opponent has hit a stretch dink, basically they've hit a dink that's stretched too wide and you're in a tough spot, and we'll show you that in a minute in a demo. But what you don't want to do in that situation is try and hit an offensive shot off of that type of position you're in, because you're in a tough spot. You've been stretched, you've been pulled wide, there's probably not a lot of angles to work with. So what you want to do there is you want to hit a defensive shot out of a defensive situation. Really important concept. It'll help you avoid errors that we all make when we're stretched wide or we're stressed. Let's say they hit a nice lob and you're pulled back and now all of a sudden you're trying to win the point. Just understand sometimes that your opponent will hit a nice shot. Recognize that your opponent has hit a nice ball and just hit a nice defensive shot back to get yourself back into the point, extend the point, and find a better opportunity from which to attack. Let's show you some demos of different situations so you understand and you can start to pick out defensive positions that you're going to find yourself in where it's not advisable to hit offensive shots. Jill and Laura are going to help me show you what it looks like when you're in a defensive position. What I mean by that is I'm in a position where I cannot attack the ball. What we're going to do is we're going to dink a little bit, and then Jill's going to pull me wide on my backhand side, which is usually trouble for most players. So she's going to pull me wide on my backhand side and then see what I do with that shot. Whether I choose to hit an offensive shot or a defensive shot is a really important decision. So we're just going to dink a little bit right now, just like we would in a game. So we're playing a game and I'm just dinking here, and then eventually I'm going to get pulled into a position that I don't like, and then the question is, what do I do now? So now here, right, so now I'm down here, I'm stressed here. What a lot of players do here is they try from here, they try taking an offensive shot. That one happened to go in, but they try and take an offensive shot there, which is a really hard thing to do. What you're better off doing is if you get stuck in that position. So if I get stuck in a really hard position, what I want to do is I want to hit a defensive shot. And there's a couple of different ways of addressing it. One way, if I get pulled there on a defensive shot, is one way is to just go back across on a defense, what I call a defensive dink. So I get pulled, I just go defensive dink right there, and it gives me time to get back to the middle. Another thing that I can do if I get stuck in that position there, so if I get pulled wide on that kind of shot, is I can go with a defensive lob. It's going to be a little tough today because of the wind, but I can go up there in the middle, and it's a really hard shot for them to handle. If I can clear this player here and get it to where it basically is dropping towards the middle of the court, it's a really good defensive shot. The key though is understanding that I'm in a defensive position. If I'm stretched wide here like this, it is not a time for me to take a shot at winning the point. It's a time for me to try and reset the ball, either softly to the kitchen or perhaps lobbing it, but not hitting an offensive ball off that kind of shot. Another area where people try and hit offensive shots where they don't exist is off an offensive lob. I'm going to show you that. I'm going to dink a little bit with Jill and Laura here, then I'm going to throw up a lob. They're going to go back and get it, and then what they need to do is they need to either lob it back, because that buys them time, or they need to hit a third shot or some sort of neutralizing shot as opposed to trying to win the point off the lob. Let's see what that looks like. Is that too good? Too good? All right, too good. Here, one more. I got one, Lord. There you go. I got to be not as good with my lob?
Yes, please.
All right. Whoa! Too short on that one.
Got it.
So there you can see how Lori hit a nice lob. Bought herself time, her and Jill time to basically get back into position, try and then reacquire the no volley zone just like you would after a serve with a type of a third shot, a neutralizing shot. What you don't want to do is go back there and just turn around and hit those rippers off the turnaround. Just not a good idea. Just accept the fact that this team hit a good offensive lob, push you off the line. Okay, that's fine. Now what your job is to buy yourself time so you can regroup and then retake the line and hopefully win the point. As important as it is to recognize defensive situations or situations where you're not in a good position to attack, it's equally important to understand when you're in an offensive situation. In other words, when you have the opportunity to attack. Too often I see players who get a high neutral dink in the kitchen, so they'll get a neutral dink that bounces up high and it's attackable, it's roughly net level or higher, and they simply come up to it and dink it back. That's an error. Another error that I see is balls that come chest high, not shoulder high, but about, just say chest high or a little bit above the navel that are up in here that are not attacked. They basically are reset back into the kitchen. When you play pickleball, what you're trying to do is you're trying to set up a kill opportunity. So if you've worked and you've moved your opponent around and all of a sudden you get a ball that's here or you get a ball that bounces and sets up that you can attack and you don't attack it, it's almost like you did nothing at all. And what happens a lot of times is you'll take that neutral ball, you'll take a ball that's here that you get attacked or a high neutral dink, and what you do is you feed it back to your opponent, and now your opponent attacks you, and now the tables are turned. Where you should have attacked, now you're defending. Really important if you're going to score points in pickleball, you're going to win points in pickleball, is to take the opportunity to be given to you by your opponents and attack when attacking is correct. What we're going to do here is show you some different situations to help you start to analyze when should I attack and you know, when is it appropriate for me to take an opportunity to pounce on a ball and attack my opponent. So what we're going to look at here is we're going to look at a couple of different scenarios that arise a lot. I see it a lot when I'm out there playing where people don't take advantage of offensive opportunities where they exist. The first one we're going to look at is basically a high neutral dink and how you got to attack that ball. So what happens a lot of times is people will take that ball that I just hit there and not do anything with it, and that's an error. Let me show you what that looks like. So I get a high ball like that and I just go like that. I basically, that ball there, I should be able to attack instead of just hitting it back. What I should do is I should go and attack that ball and stress my opponent and do something with it, not just simply neutralize it back. So you see here we're just doing some normal dinking. That was a high one and I have to attack it. If I get a high ball like that, I'm definitely going to attack it. What I don't want to do is take that high ball and just send it back. The next thing I want to look at basically chest high shots that people a lot of times just put back into the court or reset into the court as opposed to hitting. Let's see what that looks like. So what happens is people take that ball there and they just reset it. So they'll take a ball that says high. That one's a little too low, but if I take a ball that's like chest high, that ball there, and reset it, that's an error by me. What I have to do is I have to hit that ball. Even if it goes out, that's fine. I have to attack that ball and not give them the opportunity, basically let them off the hook. If they give me a high ball that's here or here and just hit that ball back as a reset shot or as a dink is an error. What you want to do with those balls is you want to hit them hard, and what I always say is you just want to throw it at the opponent, basically throw it to their side and let them figure out what to do with it. You take the advantage of the opportunity, you put pressure on your opponent and hopefully win the point. This tip is one that whether you're a 2.0 player, a 3.0 player, 4.0 player, it doesn't matter. Every player should be able to do this the same, which is to let out balls go. What you have to do is you have to train yourself to let those balls that look like they're going out, let them go. If they land in, don't worry about it. It's a nice shot, move on to the next point. Pickleball court is pretty small. You only have 22 feet from the net to the out of bounds on this side. Use the court size to your advantage. If someone's driving the ball at you, particularly if they're driving the ball low to high and they're inside the court, let that ball go and take advantage of the ball going out because of the size of the pickleball court. You're going to lose some of those points. Some of those balls are going to land in, but enough will land out to where the scales will tip into your favor and you'll get more points than your opponent by just letting them go. What we're going to do is Joe's going to hit me some balls. We're basically going to play where I'm up at the net and I have to make a decision whether I'm going to let it go or hit it. That's up to me. And depending on where she is and what kind of ball she's hitting, I'll make a decision. See what that looks like. Like there, I hit a short ball, brought Jill in, let it go. That's a good situation to let it go. Let me show you one that I would probably hit. Now that one I hit because she's hitting it from close to the baseline. That's a ball that's underneath the net. As soon as I see her coming in and hit that ball from here, from that distance, I'm gonna get out of the way of that shot, and hopefully it's gonna go out. Not all are gonna go out, some are gonna land in, but I'm gonna take my chances that enough are gonna go out that I'll make more than I'll lose, and that's the better way to play pickleball. If your opponent can drive the ball at all and is driving it from the baseline or behind the baseline, you probably need to hit that ball. If your opponent's inside the baseline, so somewhere in here, and the ball is here, and they're driving it, you can let that ball go with a pretty reasonable accuracy that it's gonna go out, or reasonable expectation to go out. And as you get closer, and those balls are low like this and driving it, just let those balls go. Only hit the ball if it's either driven from behind the baseline or near the baseline and you're playing somebody who can drive the ball well, or they hit the ball, a high ball like this, hit down on it towards you, then you want to hit those balls. Otherwise, use the percentages in the game, let those out balls go, it'll improve your results. Next time you're on the court, let some of those out balls go, even if they're marginal, so you're not 100% sure they're going out, let them go. See what happens. You'll get better at recognizing when the balls are going out, and you'll be able to get a lot of free points. If you can let out balls go, your results will improve 10 to 15%, and you might even improve 1/4 to 1/2% in your rating. Give it a try. No.